year, along with the Friends Day. Maybe because it's my age group, I don't know, but it's very sentimental to me, and I'm honored that so many of you came back. I just wanted to bring up the leader of our ship. She's doing a great job. She's been here for 29 years. Dr. Eileen Fregriano, the head of our school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Welcome to our 2024 Alumni Hall of Fame induction ceremony. As Teresa mentioned, my name is Eileen Crigliano, and I am the proud head of school. It's truly my pleasure to be here today amidst all of our present and past honorees, as well as our future leaders, our current students here at Staten Island Academy. Today, we'll be inducting our 2024 Athletic Hall of Fame members and our 2024 Distinguished Hall of Fame members. Each inductee will be introduced by a person of their choosing or a representative from the school, followed by a few words from the inductees themselves, if they're able to be with us today. Although not an Academy alum myself, over the last 29 years, I realize how lucky I am to have the opportunity to meet successful alumni from this amazing institution. I know that this school would not be what it is today without each graduating class, their parents, and their teachers since 1884. I've been given many gifts from alumni over the years. Not a plug, don't worry. Precious gifts like a beautiful dining room set, parts of a banister saved after the fire in Dongan Hall, and a graduation ring given to me by a graduate of her aunt Carol Rottenberg, class of 1944. I wear this ring proudly at all Academy events. It reminds me of the strength this community holds for over 140 years. When I think about this year's Athletic Hall of Fame members, I realize that I had the privilege of teaching to, learning from, and working with many of them, specifically Nicole Shack-D'Onofrio, 03, Drew Hughes Brock, 1997, and Aurora Tormey, class of 14. I've known these individuals, and I am tempted to call them kids, not out of disrespect for them, but to shield the fact that I guess I'm getting older. Since they were in lower school or upper school, I could not be prouder to have watched them grow, thrive, and flourish, not only on the courts and fields, but in their classrooms as well. I'm sorry I was not working here in 1990 to watch the 1990 varsity boys basketball team dominate in our gym during their time at the Academy, but I'm grateful to have gotten to know them over the years as alumni and at community events. Especially Mike Mazzella, a longtime trusted colleague, Peter Rapp, class of 1991, whose father is a pillar of our faculty and staff, and their coach, Carl Althoff, class of 1977, who I got to know as a proud Academy parent and a parent of a current employee. The collective passion of these inductees of their sport and art to our school is evident. I'm excited for all of you to hear testaments of that today. The mission of Staten Island Academy's Athletic Hall of Fame is to recognize and honor student athletes and teams who've made significant contributions to the advancement of our athletic program at the Academy during their time at our school. All nominees must have been in good standing while at the Academy and of high character since graduation. Once the nomination slate is determined, the Hall of Fame committee then votes on the inductees. As you know, high character is something we believe in. It's a core value at Staten Island Academy. You'll hear that sentiment echoed throughout today's ceremony. I'm confident after hearing from our speakers today, you will clearly see why we're excited to honor these wonderful athletes in our 2024 Athletic Hall of Fame class. So with that, please join me in welcoming a woman who I had the pleasure to work with for over 20 years. I consider her a friend and a remarkable mentor, Susan Puttick.
My glasses. They got the right piece. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all gathered here today, including our distinguished administrators, Alumni Hall of Fame honorees, family, students, and friends. I'm Susan Puttock, and I was Nicole's teacher, coach, mentor, but most of all, her friend. I first met Nicole in PE class. I knew right from the start that she would be a star athlete. Her natural abilities and her raw talent blew me away. When I asked her to come out for our middle school teams, she told me she never played sports before. I told her not to worry and that I would teach her. That was the beginning of a star athlete's journey and an awesome duo. Nicole has and had an unbending work ethic to succeed. As a player, she inspired others with her dedication and her heroic competitive spirit. She embodied confidence and transmitted that quality to all of her teammates. She truly loved the game and dedicated herself to excellence. Yet she always had fun. As a volleyball player, her serve was always on fire. She never let the ball hit the floor and would dive at all costs. In basketball, she was a 1,000-point scorer. She played tenacious defense, stealing the ball several times a game. Her three-point shot was off the charts. In softball, she was a premier pitcher, yet she could play any position on the field with ease, and I don't think she ever struck out. She was fierce and wasn't afraid of any play, even if the players towered over her, and she wasn't afraid of any team. When she walked into opposing gyms, everyone knew her. Players all watched her warm up and would talk about her talents to each other. She was always known as the Shack Attack. Nicole was a great teammate to everyone and everywhere. She was a pillar of strength and an invaluable contributor to her fellow players and coaches. She rooted, supported, and cheered for everyone on the team. Nicole always helped the players that were less skilled than her and gave them positive words of encouragement if they made mistakes. As a senior and captain, she led by example, and this is something else. She even carried equipment on and off the bus at away games. Modest and egoless, she never spoke of her greatness. Nicole was all about the name on the front of her jersey, not the number on her back. But that's on her call. Here are some of the awards she won. SIA honors include the Athletic Medal, the Gold A, the Randall Award, MVP in volleyball, basketball, and softball, a 1,000-point scorer, and a 4-year starter in all sports. In PSAA action, she was an all-star, an all-conference player in 3 sports, and a playoff MVP in softball. In ACIS action, she was an MVP and all-conference player in volleyball and softball. She also was a New York Daily News All-Star. Her accolades speak for herself, but Nicole also learned time management and balance. She was an honor student and participated in many clubs and activities at SIA. But it's not just her past athletic achievements that make her special. She is a wonderful, compassionate person and teacher. And if you ever saw her in action, she relays the message of enthusiasm and love. When she is in the presence of children, they are always found huddled around her, playing, learning, and having fun. She brings joy to her work and has gained the respect of all her colleagues and everyone around her. She is a wonderful daughter to Laura and David. And by the way, those two came to every game for 4 years and cheered her on. A sensational mom to Emma, Olivia, and Thomas, a great sister to Joseph, and a wonderful, loving, caring wife to Kevin. Nicole, it was my honor and privilege to teach and coach you. You made me a better person, and you made me love coaching. Miss Leary wants to send her regards. She couldn't make it today, but she wants to congratulate you on your efforts. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Nicole to the podium, one of the most premier female athletes Staten Island Academy ever had. Iowa and Indiana haven't had Caitlin Clark, but SAA has Nicole Shack D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. What an absolute honor to be introduced by Mrs. Puttick. She was an amazing teacher, coach, and mentor. I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for her. What I remember the most about her
That's okay about it.
was that she always believed in me and convinced me that I could do anything. So thank you, Mrs. Puttick. Today, I stand before you with an immense sense of gratitude and pride as I reflect on the journey that has led me to this moment. It is a profound honor to be recognized among the outstanding individuals who have left an indelible mark on our school's history. I cannot help but think back to the countless memories and experiences that have shaped me into the person I am today. From pre-K all the way through senior year, each step of the way has contributed to my growth and development. I have so many memories here, from bus rides to Long Island Lutheran, to going to summer camp, then working at summer camp, going on the Europe trip, Miss Leary driving the bus so we could go to away games, finally having a winning season my junior year for softball, scoring my 1000th point. So many memories with so many teachers, friends, and family. I must express my deepest appreciation to the dedicated teachers and mentors who guided and inspired me throughout my journey at SIA. I must specifically thank Mrs. Puttick, Miss Leary, Miss Crow, and Dr. Craig. Your support and encouragement were instrumental to me. I'm forever grateful for your belief in my potential and your commitment to nurturing it. When looking back on my time at the Academy, almost all of my memories include one of you. I am thankful that I had the four of you to look up to and guide me. You were all part of the reason why I became a teacher. I also want to extend my heartfelt thanks to my family, especially my parents, for their unwavering love and support. Your sacrifices and endless support have been the cornerstone of my success. You were my rock through ups and downs, and I'm eternally grateful for your constant presence in my life. You were always there supporting me no matter what, sometimes a little louder than I would have liked. To my husband, Kevin, and our wonderful children, Emma, Olivia, and Thomas, your love, understanding, and encouragement have been my guiding light and greatest sources of strength. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is not just a personal achievement, but a testament to the collective efforts of our entire school community. It reflects the values of excellence, perseverance, and integrity that define SIA. I'm so happy to call this place my home and to know that my children will have the same experiences that I did. In closing, I want to thank everyone who has played a role in shaping my high school experience. This honor is not just a recognition of my individual accomplishments, but a celebration of the collective achievements of our school community. Thank you for this incredible honor, and may we continue to inspire and uplift each other in the years to come.
Mrs. Puttick, can we get you back up here for a second, Mrs.
Puttick. Thanks, Nicole. Okay.
And I'm sure mom's somewhere taking a picture.
Yeah.
Dad, we haven't heard you cheering yet. You never did. Now I'd like to ask Andre Lutfi, class of 1998, to come to the podium and introduce Drew Shrewsboro.
Hello, everybody. Let's go Tigers. Hey. Thank you for having us today. Thank you, Staten Island Academy. It's nice to be back here in this auditorium and to be present. Such a beautiful campus. and see familiar faces, teachers, a few students. We're here today to honor the man, Drew Skills, Drew Hughes Brock. Drew Hughes Brock and I have a long history together. Not too many people know, but we wound up meeting each other in first grade and played soccer together for St. Joseph Hill Academy. And man, it was fun having this kid on the field, being able to kick the ball to Drew, watch Drew do his thing. Amazing athlete, amazing person. We had a good run. Soccer was a fun sport. He excelled at everything he did. 8th grade, 1993. I was in the hallway outside of Mr. Rapp's office, and I see Drew walking down the hallway. We always bump into each other at basketball games. Drew, what are you doing here, right? It's like, oh, I'm attending here freshman year. We're gonna be going to school together. One of the happiest days, seeing him and knowing that we were going to be on the fighting together, you know, on the courts and on the field. Drew had a super successful athletic career here at Staten Island Academy. He's one of the best players that ever graced court or the field. We spent a lot of time together in high school, and he also excelled. You know, he was a great baseball player as well, besides soccer and basketball and really anything he set his mind to. But we never played baseball. You know, all the years I've known you, I don't think we ever played baseball together. And I've never actually seen you play baseball, but for some reason you're winning championships and carrying your team and doing all the good stuff that that you deserve and you earned. A student of the game, but a lot of time and effort. When you ask Drew who his favorite basketball player is, he'll tell you, some people might say Michael Jordan or LeBron James, but Drew will say Mark Jackson or Larry Bird. I have a list here of accolades that Drew's received, and it's a long one, but quite impressive. And his work beyond sports is to me even more impressive. And you know what he does for kids. He's a phys ed teacher, molding and shaping and inspiring public school kids. And I'm going to go down the list, and it's a good one. I'm going to start with soccer. In soccer, Drew had 51 career goals, which was third all time when he graduated. Drew led the team in goals junior and senior year. He was an advanced all-star. Freshman year, in the summer of 1994, he was invited to play in the USA Cup in Minnesota, which was a World Cup for kids, representing New York City, and played against several other countries. In baseball, he won a championship in 1997. He was a league all-star senior year, advanced all-star senior year. He tied the single season hit record his senior year. He started all 3 years he played. In basketball, Drew was the all-time leading scorer in Staten Island history. He led the league. He led this borough with 1,827 points. The previous record was 1,495. I believe he is third now in all-time history. Huge accomplishment, Drew. He was a 4-year starter, Staten Island all-time leading scorer. He's third on the all-time Staten Island list. He led Staten Island in scoring 3 consecutive years. His scoring record of 53 points in a single game. He was a league all-star 3 years in a row. Freshman year, he averaged 11.8 points per game. Sophomore year, he averaged 22.8 points per game. Junior year, he averaged 23.7 points per game. And senior year, he averaged 27 points per game. Drew was a flamethrower, guys. He was an absolute flamethrower. This guy can get buckets. And even out on the street, we used to play, you know, all the best leagues in New York City. And it's very difficult. I don't know if any basketball players in the room, but it's very difficult to shoot on an outdoor rim. And Drew is just never touched the rim, never touched. But thanks for taking me out and showing me the ropes and introducing me to your friends, and wonderful family sitting next to him. Wonderful mother, Rhonda. Girlfriend Danielle, beautiful, beautiful family. So happy to know you and to spend time with you. After Drew, after high school, Drew wound up playing 2 sports in college. He played soccer and basketball, received, you know, I'm sure he's received scholarships all over the country. In high school, okay, so I'm gonna, back in 2010, I'm not gonna go there, but he had a moment where Drew was playing a baseball game, and he wound up going to catch a foul ball, and he dove for the ball, and there was a piece of pipe sticking out of the ground, and Drew wound up colliding into that fence pipe, and ended up getting badly injured, and they had to airlift him to the hospital where they thought he would never walk again. Thank God that's not the case. Drew's strength and determination and passion and the love of his family got him through it. And he's achieved many fabulous, you know, accolades along those years after him almost being paralyzed. But Drew was a high school head basketball coach for Boston Public Schools for 20 years. He was a 3-time Boston Public Schools Coach of the Year for basketball. He has 10 state tournament appearances in basketball. He has 4 state tournament semifinals appearances coaching in basketball. His high school head soccer coach, he was a high school head soccer coach for Boston Schools for 7 years. He has 2 conference championships in soccer. He has 3 state tournaments appearances. He has 2 city championship appearances. And now I'd like to talk about Drew's teaching and his physical education and everything he's doing for children in Boston and Massachusetts. Drew won the Physical Education Award for Boston Public Schools in 2017 for innovative strategies and comprehensive physical activity. Drew doesn't really boast about his achievements or accomplishments, so, you know, finding this stuff out relatively, you know, recent, you know, is, you know, good for you, Drew. But so Drew organizes for his schools. He worked with this charity event where he brought bicycles in for his students. Around 60 bikes he got donated, and taught these kids how to ride bikes. And then eventually, once the kids knew how to ride their bikes, he took them out onto a trail, and all 60 kids brought them out and taught them that important life lesson. Good for you, Drew. Every year, Drew brings in the National Guard to do 2 CrossFit sessions at his classes. And if anybody saw these CrossFit classes, I wish I could play it for you on a screen right now because it's so impressive. These kids are doing all kinds of military style drills. It inspires me to go out there and go to the gym today. So, you know, just thinking about it. I'm thinking out loud, guys. Okay. Drew, every year, he spearheads the concessions and the gear at his school. And the budget has shortfalls every year. So Drew literally is out there hustling for his kids, bringing in all the money on his gear, he puts anti-racism slogans every year. And that money helped enough to generate, to supply his students with jumpsuits, Nike track gear, and uniforms. So good stuff, Drew, man. Proud of you. Drew has the Excellence in Leadership and Mentoring Award in 2019 and the Boston Bruins Leadership Summit. His passion for the game and his willingness to learn, you know, it's never going to stop, Drew. It's never going to stop. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep. This is the beginning. I see a beautiful future. You have a beautiful family. You deserve this more than anybody. You are the GOAT, one of the greatest athletes to step foot at Staten Island Academy. So honored, privileged. God bless you. I love you. And come get your award, buddy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. I know, I'm like super short here. Oh, no, you get a phone the same frame, okay. I don't want to make it harder for the photographer.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I don't have the paper in front of me. I've never rehearsed a speech before. Actually, when I coach, when my teams make the state tournament, I type out a speech. That's the only time I rehearse it. So this is just off the top. I'm a straight shooter. It's a little overdue. It's well deserved. I want to say thank you for the people who made this happen. Staten Island Academy is it's a very prestigious school. I don't want to go here, to be honest with you. I wanted to go to Severian in Brooklyn, the all-boys school that focuses on basketball, or St. Peter's. And my mom said, nope, you're going to Staten Island Academy because it's going to prepare you the best for the next level in college. And I remember coming here to visit, and, you know, I'm not from Toad Hill. I was welcomed with open arms. Just about every day I was here, to be honest with you. Some really good families here. The Lufties are, I mean, Loretta's like my stepmom. Tony, God rest his soul, he's like my stepdad. That family, and there's a lot of families that were, I couldn't go home before practice and come back because I got to take the 76 and walk up that long, windy road. That's about a 25-minute walk with your book bag. So I'd go to the Gregoli's, the Lauren Golias, the Lufties, the Simpsons. I always had a place to go after school until I went to practice. And there was a lot of families here in this neighborhood that were extremely kind to me. So I appreciate that. So playing here was quite an experience, and I was, sports is like, it's like an obsession. My son and sports are like my two obsessions, and I give everything I got into both of those things. Those are like the only two things that matter. I put those two things before myself. I put those two things before everything. And the most exciting thing for me to receive this award is that my son, little Drew, is here to watch me receive it. That's the highlight for me. We do everything together. We still wear matching outfits. He still lets me do that. Hopefully that continues. But you know, you know, all time means all time. And my first bat, my 1,000 points was a 3-pointer. And when I broke the record, it was a 3-pointer. And I never thought I would break a record and be the all-time leading scorer. It kind of sunk in junior year. when Mr. Rapid notified me that I was getting close to my 1,000 points. And I started putting two and two together, and I was like, it's not even mid-season yet, but my junior year. So I was like, I wonder what the record is. And then when I found it out, it was another obsession. And I was like, well, if I'm getting 1,000 points halfway through junior year, let's try to take this thing a little bit further. And I was fortunate, lucky enough. Brian Mansky was the varsity basketball coach my freshman year. And he had the faith in me to put me on varsity. A lot of freshmen just go straight to JV. I was coming off the bench, and within 2 weeks, he put me in the starting lineup, and the rest was history. I want to thank all the players that I played with me, because if Andre wasn't getting the rebounds and passing me the ball, I wouldn't have been able to score. You know, if Peter Rapp wasn't letting me play center forward, I wouldn't have scored. I probably would have tried to find a way to score from fullback though. And you know, I was telling my fiance the other day, baseball was actually the funnest sport for me, because I was the least serious in it, and it was just like it kind of came easy. But I never practiced. I just played it during the season. Baseball is the most fun, the most fun sport I played here at Staten Island Academy, believe it or not. But you know, like Andre touched upon, like what I do after Staten Island Academy to me is like more important. You have to understand, I went from being like I went from being a stud. I went from being a star that was in the paper 3, 4, 5 days a week. And I went up to college, and on the college basketball team, every kid is the best player from high school. So the first game of the season, I didn't take off my warm-ups. I sat at the bench. After the game, I went by the mailroom where I knew no one would be. I sat up against the wall and I started crying, and I called my mom, and I couldn't believe I didn't step foot in the game, when usually I don't get subbed out of the game. Second game of the season, I played like 2 minutes. So I did what every other kid does, and I say, it's not me, it's the coach. The coach doesn't like me. So I transferred to a school in Boston. And first game of the season, I didn't take off my warm-ups, and I sat at the bench. So I figured, okay, maybe it's not the coach, maybe it's me. So I worked my ass off as much as I humanly possibly can. I was on scholarship for soccer. After sophomore year, I quit soccer, and my mom was like, what are you doing? You're giving back the scholarship. And I said, yeah, but we're getting a new basketball coach. I'm gonna earn that scholarship back in basketball. And I quit soccer, and I went as hard as I could go. I practiced every day, multiple times a day when I was home for the summer. I would get those big green garbage barrels, and I'd set them up on the outdoor courts behind the projects, and I'd spin the ball to myself and do moves around the green garbage barrel and score, and do it for hours and hours. And I went back up to Boston, and midway through the season, someone got kicked off the team. The coach called me into his office, and he said, hey, I just want to let you know you're now on scholarship. And I tell that story to my current players now, that like this generation takes the easy way out, and we tend to make a lot of excuses, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So I tell my players that story, like I went out and I took what I wanted. I went out and I earned it. I didn't let someone give it to me. And that's what I'm preaching to my son. If you want something, you got to go out and take it. No one's going to give you handouts in this world. Just be appreciative of what you have. And lastly, I just want to thank my family, my Nana, who's not here anymore, but she was my best friend. My dad, who he's in Missouri with his grandson's birthday, and he couldn't be here. Most of all, my mom. My mom was really, really strict. I couldn't get away with nothing. The only thing I could do was go to Staten Island Academy and play sports. I couldn't do anything, but clearly it paid off. My mom and my family made it harder for me to fail than succeed. I'm here because of her. If it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would be. I mean, I'd like to think I would be all right, but she was the steady driving force of my life. And now it's my turn to do it with my son. So thank you, Mom. Thank you for all the people at Staten Island Academy that welcomed me from day one. And I'm really excited, and I'm glad my son got to see this.
Thank you, Drew and Andre. I would now ask Stacey Heat to come forward and speak on behalf of her.
Good morning, everyone. I am so honored to introduce one of my closest friends, Aurora Torney. I have had the honor of knowing her for the past 5 years, and she truly embodies excellence, grit, determination, everything that just makes a well-rounded human in this world. Which I'm sure she's learned all of these skills from this incredible institution that I myself was not privileged enough to have the opportunity. I went to failing schools my whole life, and this is something that is really beautiful to see. Today, as a middle school assistant principal, Aurora shapes the lives of hundreds of children, which we know is no easy job. She teaches children that nothing is impossible to achieve every single day, and she motivates them to be their best selves, leading her to change the lives of thousands of kids, and I know that this is just the beginning for her. As a friend, she constantly inspires us to do great and never settle for less than we deserve. Once you have had the privilege of meeting Aurora, you realize that life without her is pretty bleak, and for that, I feel so lucky. Aurora is a force, and I'm so proud of her every single day, and I know that she will continue to do great things for the rest of her life. And we love you, and we are so proud of you. That's all. Yes. Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It is with immense gratitude and profound humility that I stand before you all today, accepting this incredible honor of being inducted into Staten Island Academy's Athletic Hall of Fame. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest thanks for everyone to bestowing me this amazing recognition. It is truly an honor to be recognized alongside such distinguished group of athletes who have left their mark on our school's rich sporting legacy. I'm deeply grateful to my coaches and my advisors, see Mr. Crane, Mr. Rapp, Ms. Crow, Mr. Mazzella, for their guidance, their wisdom, and unwavering belief in my own abilities. Your relentless dedication in my journey, in pushing me beyond my perceived limits, and your individual mentorship as an athlete, but also as a person. The lessons you taught me on the field about resilience, teamwork, integrity, continue to guide me in all aspects of my life now. To my teammates, this is an honor that is mine as much as it is yours. Our shared victories and defeats, countless hours of practice, and the unbreakable bond we formed on and off the field has been the foundation of my success. You were my motivation to strive for greatness, and I'm forever thankful for the camaraderie and the support that we shared. I also want to acknowledge my mother, whose endless support and sacrifices made my athletic endeavors possible. Your willingness to travel hours away to stand in absolutely miserable weather, I will never understand, but it provided me the opportunity I needed to pursue my dreams. To my sister, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, I want to thank her for being my biggest fan and my sometimes too honest critic. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is not just a recognition of past achievements, but a reminder of the continuous journey of growth and excellence. It is a testament to the power of perseverance, hard work, and the pursuit of one's passions. I hope my story inspires current and future students and athletes to believe in their dreams and to understand that success is not merely defined by trophies and accolades, but by the dedication and heart they bring in those pursuits. To current student athletes, I know that every moment you spend on the field, on the court, or the track is a precious opportunity to build your character and define your future. Cherish these moments, for they will shape the person you will become. Embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, especially against Lehigh, and learn to trust in your teammates.
Most importantly, never forget the joy and love you have for the game that brought you here. In closing, I'm profoundly honored to join the ranks of Staten Island Academy's most distinguished Hall of Fame athletes. This recognition is a cherished milestone in my life, and I promise to carry forward the values and spirit of the community in all my future endeavors. Thank you all for this unforgettable honor. And exactly.
Thank you, Stacy and Aurora. We now ask Carl Altoff, class of 1977, to come forward and speak about his 1990 varsity boys basketball team.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for selecting the 1990 boys basketball team for the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame. It is an honor for me to accept this award on their behalf. This was a very talented team. But talent aside, they were willing to play as a team and work together to accomplish their goal of winning. We had a very deep team, and each player was ready to do their job when called upon. At guard, we had Brian Zalmeyer and Mike Mazzella. Brian was an excellent shooter and playmaker. Mike was like a coach on the court. I'm not surprised now that he is the head coach here at Staten Island Academy. Mike had one special talent. He knew how to get the ball to John Young. He led the team with 123 assists. Most of them was to John. At forward, we had two very similar players, Jesse Wiener and Peter Rapp. Both could score and rebound, but both played tenacious defense. Greg Pereno was a physical player, and he could hit jumpers from the foul line and score some tough baskets inside. Marcus Jacobs, he could score, he could rebound, he could block shots. He was the second leading scorer on the team with 397 points, and he had 1,272 points for his career at Staten Island Academy. He could do it all. Then there was John Young, the 6'9" center. He probably could be the best big man to ever play here at Staten Island Academy. He was a very talented player. He could score inside and outside. He rebounded, played tough D, and blocked shots. John scored 705 points in his senior year and 1,467 points for his career. He also had 375 rebounds in 1990. He went on to be a 4-year starter at Holy Cross. We also had some younger players, Stephen Contorno, Jay Saccaro, Anat Vashi, Omar Ramadan, and Alex Pianessa, who were a big part of the team's success. They were always ready when they got their opportunity to play. We finished the year with a 25-4 record. We finished first in the ACIS with a perfect 12-0 record. At one point during the season, we were ranked in the States. We started the season 18 wins, no losses, before losing to a very talented team. Out of the 29 games we played this year, this is the one game that I remember most. We were winning by 2 points, 8 seconds left in the game. They had the ball and called a timeout. They had an all-city guard, number 23, that had been tough all game. As my team was coming to the bench, I could still see John Young's face saying to me, "Let me cover him. Let me cover number 23. I said to John, "We've been playing in tough all game. Let's keep it the way we've been doing it." They inbounded the ball, of course, to number 23, and we were all over him. We had 3 guys surrounding him. He took a step back three-pointer and he made a shot at the buzzer. We lost our first game by 1 point. It was a heartbreaking loss. But if John was here today, I would tell him that after 34 years, I can now say, "John, you should have covered number 23. In my mind, this was the best boys basketball team ever at Staten Island Academy. It was just a little bit better than the 1977 team that I played on. some of the accomplishments we had was John Young made history for being the first private school player ever to make the Daily News Staten Island High School basketball team. Because of his abilities of John and his teammates, I was also named the Daily News Coach of the Year, also a first. Marcus Jacobs made the Daily News second team. Through all my years of coaching, I learned one thing about how to be a really, really good coach. That is to have really, really good players. Good players that are willing to play with each other and help each other. In closing, to my team, if they were here, your heart and teamwork earned you a place in the Staten Island Academy Hall of Fame. I am proud to have been part of your journey.
Any members of the team, I know at least one of you, are come on up to the stage, please. Hey, John. Up the height.
Mike, we want to say a few words, there's a few guys on the Zoom. I don't know if you want to, I know you like to talk. We have a few players on Zoom.
I was hoping to get through one of these Hall of Fame ceremonies without having to speak, but I guess not. You know, Coach Carly did a fantastic job. Just recapping that season, and as I said to Coach, if there was one person from the team that he would like to have be here, I'm sure it would be your point guard. So, and I'm sure you'll attest, I led the team in scoring, rebounding, and assists. I was really a one-man wrecking crew that season, so it's only fitting that I'm here. But as Coach said, when I think back on this team, two things really stand out about it. One is the depth of our team. You know, we had everything, all the tangibles, the intangibles, guys who could run, we could run for days on fast break. It was really lethal, guys who could shoot, dribble, defend. But the depth of our team, that's something that really took us above and beyond what the other teams that we competed against could throw out on the floor. Our practices were so intense because our second team literally thought they were better than our first team. And I think anytime we needed to put substitutions into the game, we didn't miss a beat. Those guys just did a fantastic job. They pushed the starters, and we really had a great chemistry and culture, which again helped us to achieve that 25-4 mark. And the second thing, our intelligence as a team. I think I have a unique perspective, having coached here for the last 28, 29 years. That team, that 89-90 team, was the most intelligent team, certainly that I've ever been a part of. And I think it's probably the most intelligent team Staten Island Academy's ever put on the floor. I mean, how could we not go wrong? We had 2,000-point scores. We had, like I said, we had size, speed, toughness, and we had a Hall of Fame coach. So I'm actually surprised that we lost the 4 games that we did. And like Coach says, those are the ones that you remember. You know, the 25 wins were great, but those 4 losses, I can tell you about each and every one of those. I still think about them. But again, it was just a great team. I'm honored to have been part of it. And to my teammates who are out there watching on the Zoom call, congratulations, guys, and you know, go Tigers.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mike. The second group of inductees may not be in the Athletic Hall of Fame, but they are truly game changers in their fields. Today, we honor them as distinguished alumni. As you know, the Academy can trace its roots back to 1884 with our founder, Anton Mefessel. In the fall, we'll be celebrating our 140th. Since our founding, scholarship, leadership, and service are attributes we continue to value and instill in our Academy students each day. and you will hear this echoed as we induct these alumni. We have an incredible number of accomplished and distinguished alumni. Today, the community is honored to recognize 3 that have stood out. These individuals have had a positive impact on Staten Island Academy as students, and without question, have made noteworthy impact on their community since their graduation. With that said, we're excited to honor and induct these impressive community members to our 2024 Distinguished Hall of Fame. Dr. Joseph Rao, class of 1967, Dr. Christopher Moran, class of 1961, and personally, I'm proud to have worked with Dan Master, class of 1971 over the years, not only as a supportive alum, but a parent of 2 Academy graduates and a tremendous advocate of all things Staten Island Academy. So with that, I'm honored to speak on behalf of Joseph Rao, class of 1967. Dr. Rao is an experienced and successful leader of complex, multifaceted nonprofits. He's held senior administrative leadership positions in places such as he was the Louisiana Commissioner of Higher Education in Baton Rouge. He was the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at Texas Tech University, President of Angelo State University, Provost and Academic Vice President of Western Illinois University, and the Dean of College of Business Administration at the University of Colorado. We're grateful for Dr. Rao's military service. He retired from the United States Air Force with rank of colonel. He graduated from Air Commander and Staff College and Air War College. And he has an impressive career with 27 years in intelligence and logistics. One would think that was enough, but no. Dr. Rao earned his BA in history, Russian history, from Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, his law degree from Western New England University in Massachusetts. He was a fellow of law at European University Institute in Florence, Italy. He earned his master's in comprehensive politics from Maxwell School of Syracuse University. And because he couldn't stop there, he got his PhD in international relations from the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. It's no surprise that he's written multiple publications, including books, chapters, articles, and grants. I'm confident that with his interpersonal skills that he had honed with his over 40 years with university and the military world, he would have blown us away today. But unfortunately, he is unable to join us, but asked me to share his thoughts. He begins with a homage to the Grateful Dead. What a long, strange trip it's been. From Staten Island Academy in 1967 to retirement on the 13th tee box at the Country Club in San Angelo, Texas. What the Academy taught me was to recognize the absence of straight lines, the virtue of detours, and the ability to savor and take advantage of opportunity and challenges. I think my journey speaks to those lessons. After college in Pennsylvania, I realized that jobs for Russian history majors with a bachelor's degree were simply non-existent. So I hopped on my motorcycle and followed Route 66 west. I wound up at the Grand Canyon National Park, where I worked on forest firefighting for months before returning to New York City to look for a job. I must add that even after attending college in Pennsylvania, my allegiance, then and now, remains with Staten Island Chuck, rather than Punxsutawney Phil. Chuck is always right in the prediction cycle. After several years in Manhattan, I realized that retail, though lucrative, was not my future. So after 7 years of graduate school and 3 degrees, I found myself on at Rutgers University teaching comparative politics of Europe and constitutional law. For those here mature enough to remember, mortgage rates and interest of 1982 were at 16%, and faculty salaries then and now were rather measly. So I first turned my life, I decided to join the Navy. The movie Officer and a Gentleman depicted a true military venue run by the Marines for the Navy. As such, after many miserable months of boot camp, I graduated and was commissioned as a Navy ensign in intelligence. For once, my Russian history degree proved quite useful. I was assigned for many years to the faculty at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, while still engaging in analytical work for military intelligence in DC. I was fortunate to be named a Fulbright Scholar and NATO Fellow and published extensively on defense and related topics. As the Cold War was winding down, it became apparent that military would also be shaped differently. So I left active duty and joined the Air Force Reserve and moved to airborne logistics. Over the next 2 decades, I spent time in places, some pleasant and some not so pleasant, but all rewarding nonetheless. I retired from the Air Force in 2008 as a colonel. My second turn in life was to return to academia. After leaving active duty, I joined the Michigan State University system and again taught comparative politics of Europe. The difference was the background I had gained in my military years. I think it made me a much better teacher. Although rewarding being a faculty member, my interests and talents soon steered me to the academic administration. So for those versed in the arcane world of higher education, and to use a reference from a game of pool, I ran the administrative table. Over 20 years, I served as a college dean, provost of academic vice president, university president, system vice chancellor, and lastly, the commissioner of higher education for the 20 public universities in Louisiana. During that time frame, I served institutions in Michigan, Colorado, Illinois, Texas, and Louisiana, as well as chairing the Japan Center for Michigan Universities on behalf of the 15 public universities in that state. Now in retirement, since 2018, I engage in volunteering grant writing for nonprofit work, which works with children in danger. I met my wife, Barbara, and moved to Texas in 2007, and we travel as much as time will allow. We have cross-cultural marriage, Staten Island, and West Texas, but it works just fine. So what has my long, strange journey taught me? Obviously many things, but none so important as remaining inquisitive. What the Academy taught me was to hone and burnish my many decades. So at this point in my life, and to end with a quote from Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. Thank you. And now I would like to ask Marcus Dash, class of 1961, to come forward to introduce our inductee, Dr. Christopher Morin.
Good afternoon. It is afternoon, by the way. I have the honor to introduce my great friend, Chris Morin. I've been asked to talk about some of his accomplishments, which may not be in the CV that you see in the program, and so that's what I'm going to do. Chris and I met in 1957 as freshmen at Staten Island Academy, and we were natural friends because we were both a scholarship kid. Everybody else in our class, which was 17, were non-scholarship, but he and I had scholarships. And we kept those scholarships. In those days, you had to maintain an academic average. We kept our scholarships for 2 years. Then we ran into third-year French and Mrs. Panette and lost our scholarships. But we were able to remain at Staten Island Academy. Now, in high school, one of Chris's great accomplishments was to be the founder of the Staten Island Rocket Society. Now, unless you think about the hobby kits that one can get here in town with the little cardboard rockets with the little motors, that's not what we did. We built metal rockets with high explosive fuel. And the high explosive nature of the fuel was demonstrated frequently. In fact, these days, SpaceX, you may have heard of them, they like to call it unscheduled rapid vehicle disassembly. We call it explosions. And we had many. In fact, we may not have ever had a truly successful launch, but we did have quite a few large explosions. Now, this is also an athletic day, and I'm happy to be part of that, to hear the amazing accomplishments of some of our predecessors. Chris actually had an athletic accomplishment of his own. He scored on a free kick from midfield in a soccer game, Staten Island Academy. Now, this is not, for those of you who know soccer, this is not a Lionel Messi thing of beauty. This was a triplet that rolled along the ground quite slowly and somehow managed to penetrate the thicket of players between him and the goal. Emerging from the other side, the opposing goalie was so astonished to see it come out that he made almost no effort to stop it, and it just rolled across the goal line. So, a goal scorer. Chris also had one of the great honors of any Staten Island Academy person can ever have, because he gave one of the last speeches at the high school of Staten Island Academy. Now, almost nobody in this room knows that the high school he and I went to was in St. George, just close to the Ferry Journal. It was a building, an old building, and that building housed the high school. What was up here was the K through 8. High school was down there. In our senior year, very close to the end, the New York City Fire Department decided to do an inspection and immediately labeled our building as an imminent fire hazard and closed it. For some time, there was a negotiation back and forth. And literally, this was right at the end of our senior year. We were allowed still to have some classes and to finish off our semester. But when it came time to have an assembly, we had an assembly hall, which doubled as a gym, by the way. Chris gave a speech, and ringing the outside of the hall were New York City Fire Department members with hoses in hand. Another great accomplishment. Chris went on to Columbia, where he studied chemistry and joined the Naval ROTC. When he graduated from Columbia, he had to do 5-year service with the Navy, and he chose to be in the submarine service. In order to join the submarine service, he had to interview with Admiral Hyman Rickover. If any of you have ever heard that name, he was the father of the nuclear power program in this country. He was brilliant and intimidating. And Chris will tell you to this day that the most terrifying experience of his life was that interview. But fortunately, he passed it and became a submariner on a nuclear power sub. He was actually on what we call a boomer, which is a nuclear power submarine that has weapons on it, nuclear weapons, 16 Polaris nuclear weapons. And he was the executive officer on that boomer. Now, when I found out about this, given Chris's history with the Staten Island Rocket Society, I was naturally a little concerned. But you know, we're still all here, so he did okay, right? When he came out of the Navy, Chris could have taken his experience as a nuclear power engineer and turned that into a very lucrative career. But instead, he chose to go to medical school. And for several years, going to medical school and then residency, he finally became and was able to hang up his shingle in Mystic, Connecticut as a family doctor internist, and later on a geriatric specialist. Now, when you think about accomplishments, becoming a doctor for a community of that size, essentially small town doctors, that was a great accomplishment. When he retired, the whole town came out to give him a farewell party. And just last night, I heard from Chris something that happened in the last few weeks, which kind of makes me think about great accomplishments. Only a few weeks ago, Chris was at a dinner. One of the people at that dinner suddenly stopped breathing and started turning blue. Chris, with his knowledge, was able to get that person stabilized, got his breathing restarted, and that person is walking around Mystic, Connecticut today, thanks to Chris Moran. So it's my honor and pleasure to introduce my best and longest friend, Dr. Christopher Jeffrey Moran.
I'll correct some of his things that he said. I will, I will. Thank you very much. Well, I'm truly honored to be here, and I'm humbled by the people who I've met tonight who have told you about their achievements in life. And I just am in awe. I had written a speech that sort of was on the light side, and I'll keep it that way, and it'll be short. But I certainly wanted to thank the Hall of Fame committee. Really to this day, I don't quite understand the process because I don't know why I'm here. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm certainly thrilled to be back at Staten Island Academy. You know, for me, 1957 was an important year because I earned the scholarship to Staten Island Academy, and I could have gone to Curtis. That would have been my high school, and all my 8th grade classmates at PS40 went to Curtis High School. But you know, my brother came here, he graduated in the class of 56. And my father graduated from Staten Island Academy in the class of 31. Actually, my dad started at a school called Arden School, and maybe Eileen, maybe you've heard of Arden School. They merged with the Staten Island Academy back in the was it the era of the dinosaurs? At any rate, as Marcus mentioned, the other scholarship winner that year was Marcus Dash, and he has become my lifelong friend. Our friendship started then. We were the class of 61. I think that class was most famous for its basketball agility. We had two players, Bob Bruno, who unfortunately are not here today. They were the Gold Dust twins. Why were they known as that? Is because those two, with the other players on the team, defeated a true giant in the Mapes League, Loyola. And that was an incredible achievement. It was like the David and Goliath story. But lesser known was the team of Moran and Dash. We were inseparable. And as Marcus mentioned, we did found the Staten Island Rocket Society, along with members of the class of 1960, who I really give tribute today because we bonded with that class, and the other members of the class of 60 who were part of the Rocket Society were Richard Larkin, Ted Haugen, Stuart Hirschberg, and Norman Scarpolo. Now those guys were pretty amazing. Larkin wound up at Harvard. Teddy Haugen, MIT. Hirschberg, Columbia, and Norman Scarpella at Lehigh. Not too bad. As Marcus mentioned, despite numerous attempts, we never had a visible successful rocket launch. Visible is important here because most of our launches were in the dark. We would go down with our equipment to the wetlands of Princess Bay. We'd set up our unit, and I was hoping that Norman would be here because he was the engineer that designed our unique electrical launch system. And we'd run the cable several hundred yards away to an electronic device that Norman created to launch this thing safely. And we'd do our countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, press the button, and the darn thing would ignite. Okay, but of course, we were several hundred yards away. And all we heard was the audible sign that our rocket had lit off. It was such a horrendous explosion that within minutes, we heard sirens in the background, and we were really scared shitless. We snuck away. This was about midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. We snuck back to Marcus's house. His family lived down in Tottenville. And we'd celebrate our victory or loss. We never had the guts to go back and see what was left of the rocket. But we certainly owe a lot to Staten Island Academy for fostering us during those formative years, and especially to our mentor, Leslie D. Bissell, who I think Jerry Nesvold, who's here, thankfully this afternoon, also gives tribute to Leslie Bissell, who taught us chemistry and just was I would say, a guiding light for us. Our class did fairly well. Mark was accepted at MIT, but instead chose Georgia Tech because his family had moved down there. I went to Columbia. Janet Swift in our class went to Bryn Mawr, Gene Sarenberg to Cornell. Our valedictorian, Erga Thorson, I wish Erga was here today, went to Wagner along with a lion's share of our classmates. But I want to take a moment to remember those classmates from 60 and 61 who are not here with us. They've passed on. Linda Atwell, who spent her career as an English teacher at Mary Wagner High. Janet Swift, who was an environmentalist in Hawaii. Carol Witt, Teddy Haugen, who married his high school sweetheart, Suzanne Smith, and they were going to be here this afternoon, but Suzanne had an auto accident on the way, and Norm Scarpella was her passenger. They both survived, but obviously they can't be with us today. So let's spend a moment of silence for them. Barbara Glody, who became Miss New York, and Keith Jackson, whose wife Diane is here today, and Keith was known to us affectionately as the Pudge. But if anybody else can think of anyone else who we should remember, oh yes, I do remember. Dennis Peoples started out in our class, but he left to go to a boarding school after a couple of years with us. But he was a wonderful classmate. But he died a few years ago. Anyone else can think of anybody else who can't be with us this afternoon? Please speak up. But in closing, the Academy was a unique place, and I think there were some things. This is on the later side that were unique. In what other school could you, during recess, go down to the janitor's office and smoke a cigarette? What other drama club would, in the nativity scene at the Christmas play, have a bottle of booze instead of the baby Jesus? kidding aside, we all owe a lot to this wonderful field. It produced some amazing graduates in professional, academic, sports, educational fields, and the creative arts. Many have served in the military, and many have seen their children go to this school. And it's nice to appreciate not only how much the school gave us, but to recognize how much its graduates have given to their communities. And when it comes down to what really matters, that's what matters, what you can give back to your community, particularly since having received such a privileged and wonderful education. Now, I didn't want to go into too much of my own career because the brochure covered that, and Marcus did a nice job of covering, but I did want to make a correction, and that is, I was not the executive officer of the nuclear submarine. I was a division officer and a department officer. I qualified in submarines. I qualified as an engineer officer of the watch and as the officer of the deck underway and at shore. So I did have some accomplishments in the Navy, but certainly not as executive officer, second in command to the captain. And I did, as Marcus mentioned, I was fortunate to be able to go to the University of Connecticut, one of the earliest classes of UConn. Then I came back to New York for my residency. I was in the Bronx for several years, both as a resident and an attending physician at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Then Edie and I, my wonderful wife, Edie, who's here today, thank you. We moved up to Connecticut, and I took over practice in New London, which is really, I don't know, many of you probably are not aware of New London, but New London is a small Bronx, okay? It's got a wide socioeconomic spectrum, and the emergency room, which I worked in for several years, is probably one of the busiest emergency rooms in the state. So it's not like being a Dr. Welby out here. But anyway, my career went on, and now I finally was able to retire. And in my dotage, I do go down to Yale once or twice a month and try to teach the wonderful medical students there how to practice medicine. So with that, I close and really appreciate getting to know many of you and to see some of my old friends from our era. You know, just it was really nice, Teresa, to include shall we say the older generation in this wonderful celebration. So I hope I haven't taken too much time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Christopher and Marcus. Yeah. We did, right? Yeah. Last but not least, or maybe we save the best for last. I'll let you decide after they both speak. It's with great pleasure that I introduce my friends, Academy parents and Academy graduate of the class of 1972, Suzanne Ainsley, to help us induct Daniel Master, class of 1971.
Bright lights, wow. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be here to speak about my dear friend, Dan Master. I hope you've had a chance to read the biography that appears in the easel out in the atrium. Very impressive. If you've not, you're fortunate because the statement actually appears in your program. Much of the information presented there is available in the school's records or in newspaper archives. For my remarks, however, I've dug into my personal archives. Let's begin. I start with an excerpt from a letter dated February 7th, 2002. While Dan's academic and professional resume is most impressive, it does not convey the special qualities of the individual himself. He is warm, perceptive, possessed of a gentle wit, and deeply interested in education and the Academy's role in it. The author was none other than my mother, Janet Steern, submitting Dan's name for consideration as an SIA board member. Dan has been a valued friend of my entire family for a very long time, which explains why I was given the challenge today to go beyond the biography that appears in your program and attempt to convey the special qualities of the individual himself. Now, writing about a lawyer is never an easy assignment. One needs to be scrupulous about facts and avoid any defamatory comments. This one is particularly hard because Dan has such a keen respect for the power of words. He's an extremely polished writer himself, whether composing a legal brief, lyrics to a song, or a letter recording experiences traveling across country. Don't worry, Dan, I won't quote any of your letters from the road. Indeed, because of his skills, my siblings and I asked Dan to deliver a eulogy at our mother's memorial service 22 years ago, confident that he would successfully capture her essence and season his remarks with some humor on an otherwise sad occasion. His Valentine to our mother touched everyone present. The Class of '71 yearbook offers additional proof of his love affair with language. In signing my copy, Dan had two pieces of advice. Keep writing for the quill. Your articles always spice up that old rag. And secondly, get an overdose of modern poetry. Greg Corso, Ferlinghetti, Allen Ginsberg. Do that to balance all the Shakespeare to which you've been exposed. Just think about it. What he wanted me to focus on were writing and poetry. What a different place the Academy was during those years, both in its physical appearance and campus life. By then, the school had been consolidated on the Tote Hill grounds, but Haugen Hall had not yet been built. Kearns Hall was just called the upper school building and was only 2 levels. And Dongan Hall had not yet succumbed to a fire, later to be replaced by Crow Hall. All I need do to suggest the difference in the experience is remind you that cell phones, Starbucks, TikTok, and laptops did not yet exist. There were student clubs and AP classes, but certainly not as many. French and Spanish were offered, but not Chinese. Girls played field hockey, not lacrosse. And the theater department and glee club bore no resemblance to their present day counterparts. And the student body did not begin to represent as many cultures and ethnicities as today. But what was the same was that we too had certain teachers who stood out because of their passion for their subjects, their commitment to helping young people on the path to becoming adults, their patience, and yes, sometimes their quirkiness. The interaction with these individuals provided us with our most vivid memories. Whiteman, Monsieur Auclair, Dr. Meyer, and the Aubens. Dan and I were 1 year apart, but were classmates in math, Quill staffers, and voices in the aforementioned glee club. However, this last activity offered me no insight into how important music was to Dan. Not until much later did I become aware that music was not just a hobby, but a compulsion. In a July 2000 article from the Staten Island Advance, reporting on his first prize win in the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival songwriting competition, Dan reflects, "To the rest of the world, I am the borough president's counsel. To practically no one, I am a songwriter. But that is my self-image. I consider myself a writer. I guess you could say I'm a man at odds with his own ambition." A favorite music-related memory of mine is being responsible for Dan's introduction to a composer he admired, Vic Mizzy. You may not recognize the name, but all I have to do is go da-da-da-dum to provide a meaningful clue. Vic was a composer not only for the themes to the sitcoms The Addams Family and Green Acres, but also for movies. When one day Dan casually mentioned Vic Mizzy's name in a conversation about TV jingles, I was incredulous because Vic happened to be the father of my next door neighbor. I offered to make an introduction the next time the LA-based composer was visiting. Within a few months, we were able to schedule a meeting at my home. Although the one request that my neighbor had made was not to ask Vic to play the piano, within half an hour, Vic and Dan had excused themselves from the table to do just that. Dan had even brought along a tape recorder and received permission from Vic to capture some of their conversation. In commencement speeches, Academy students often assert that they will remain friends for ages and ages hence. We know that is not always the case, but Dan and I have remained friends for over 50 years. Not only friends, but parents of children who graduated from the Academy class of 2017 and colleagues on 2 different boards together, the SIA board and presently the Staten Island Foundation board. I have no reason to believe the bond between us will ever weaken. I have not touched on Dan's experience as a teacher himself or his record as a non-elected public servant working in the borough president's office for 3 different men or the district attorney's office. But I hope I've made a strong case for why Dan Master, or Skip, as many of his closest friends, except me, apparently, deserves entry to the Academy's Alumni Hall of Fame. Recently, the subject of retirement came up when we had dinner together. Dan explained to me that Koreans do not believe in the concept of retirement. And for that reason, his wife, Angie, a Korean American, encourages him to keep working. But I believe it is the work ethic ingrained in him by his parents and his continuing desire to better our community that drive him. Or perhaps the words of one of his favorite poets, Robert Frost. Those words stir in his head. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Was that my eulogy?
Interpret it as you will.
That was sweet, metaphorical. Did I pass away at some point?
Close me with it.
I'm gonna stand in the middle, so you've got a kind of red, white, and blue thing on there. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take mine away.
I'm not sure I recognize the person who was being described in that introduction, but Suzanne, I want to thank you for the wonderful and very generous introduction, only some of which was true, which will explain why I'm filing an action for defamation in court first thing Monday. I'd like to thank Staten Island Academy, not only for this award, but for helping to launch me into my educational and career goals. Because although the list of alma maters that you might see in your program is very impressive, those institutions were nothing more than finishing schools for skills that I learned at Staten Island Academy. The fact is, I only know how to do three things. People who need a visual aid, I only know how to do three things. I can read critically, I can write critically and at times poetically, and I learned how to advocate for things that I thought were right and to stand up against things that I thought were wrong. Dr. Robert Arnold Haugen, my daughter Emma, sitting in the front row, carries his surname as her middle name. Yes, I named one of my children after one of my teachers at Staten Island Academy. And I'm glad he's with us here today in spirit. I learned how to write from him in weekly themes of 500 words. He also taught me the skills I would later use to write what others have called compelling song lyrics. He was my 9th and 10th grade English teacher at Staten Island Academy. And how fortunate I was to have him teach me at that critical point in my own life. I'm also indebted to Warren Whiteman, taught English, Grace Thompson, taught history, Madam Haugen, Dr. Haugen's wife, taught French, and Mr. Meyer taught me chemistry and physics, and Peter Rapp. Peter, I hope you're here. I think I saw you earlier. There you are. And Peter Rapp, who taught me the importance of teamwork and in staying fit for life. Peter, you teach by example, and it's been great to know you for so many years. At the Academy, I was an honor student, 7 through 12. I was president of the student council. I was co-captain of the varsity soccer team. But my career at Staten Island Academy was not all sweetness and light. I was suspended not once, back to visual aids, not once, but twice from Staten Island Academy. The first time I was suspended because my hair touched my shirt collar in the back. Again, another visual aid here. It's difficult to mention this without cracking a smile in 2024, but in 1970, there was no surer sign of the decline and fall of Western civilization as a boy's hair touching his collar. And I don't know. I was suspended a second time that's number 2. I was suspended a second time when I attended the first Earth Day all-day teach-in celebration in April 1970 at Rutgers College, a school that I would later attend. I returned from that event, and along with my classmate Rick Ryan, we established a recycling program for a soda machine that they had put in the top floor of the gymnasium. I was called into the then headmaster's office, and I thought perhaps he'd be commending me on the recycling program. But no. I was suspended for taking an unexcused absence from the school and not providing him with a written letter signed by my parents at least 48 hours in advance. As one often sees in meeting notes, a highly spirited discussion ensued between the two of us in his office.
He suspended me for 2 days. Okay, the first one was just a 1-day suspension. This was a 2-day suspension. I requested a different penalty, and he said, no. I said, and I kind of regret this. I said, you call yourself an educator and you're telling me the punishment for missing a day of school is to miss 2 more days of school? At which point I thought there was a flicker, just a flicker of, gee, maybe this kid's right, but that didn't last long, and it might have been my imagination. At this point, he called me a Philadelphia lawyer. Okay. A remark that in retrospect had great predictive value. I have practiced law in Boston, I've practiced law in New York, I've practiced law in Washington, DC, but I've never practiced law in Philadelphia, just for the record. I want to leave you, especially those students who may have ended up at odds with the dress code at some point in their careers, or come at odds with it in the future. If today's award is truly for something or things I've achieved in life, then remember this. I did it all while my hair was touching my collar. Many thanks again to the Academy, to Suzanne for those lovely and partially true remarks. I also want to thank my wonderful wife, Angie, who was here. My children, Emma and Trip, and my dog Buster, and Emma is in the front row, for their support, and I want to congratulate the other honorees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Dan. I think the committee might have to reconvene because we did say students in good standing, Dan. And I'm not sure those 2 suspensions were on record, so don't go far with that base. I would like to thank all of you that participated this afternoon, and congratulations once again to all of our inductees. It is without question that they made their Academy family proud, not only as a student, but they continue to do so long after their graduation, personally or through their work. And for that, we are thankful. Students that are here today, I hope you are as inspired as I am to continue being leaders on the field, in the classroom, and in your community. Continue to demonstrate all that Staten Island Academy has taught you in everything that you do. I look forward to celebrating with each of you. Before we have lunch together today in the Patrick Commons, we're going to meet right outside the building and dedicate a tree in honor of Emilia Garcia Carlson, class of 1939. I'd ask that you all join us there and then join us for lunch in the Patrick Commons. Remember, never forget, once a tiger, always a tiger. Thank you.